actually finally ask you the question since you're the man for this.
Okay.
Static's redesign.
Oh man, I just answered that twice.
No, actually, that's the thing. Were you tempted to kind of go back to his milestone design, or were y'all just like, hey, we want to do something fresh and new?
So there's like the truthful answer, which I'm gonna give you. This show's so big, right, that I don't really have a whole lot of time to marinate on one character. But I've worked on Static in various ways over the years. It was actually where I got my start in animation. I started on the Static Shock show that we were producing at WB about 15 years ago. And so I love the character. And in season 2, he's kind of wearing street clothes, just he's a runaway, basically. He's in that group. And so it's just his civvies. For the season 3, like as can't give away too much, but basically where he's at, it didn't feel to me like he needed to go full decked out superhero outfit. Yeah, you know what I mean? But he still has. So it's still kind of like his civvies, his streetwear, but he's proudly wearing his Static symbol because he's a hero now. He's training under Black Lightning. So it's but the characters evolve, so you never know. We might introduce a whole new outfit at some point.
Cool. Were there any New 52 or Rebirth designs you used as inspiration?
I don't think so. I mean, it really depends on what you consider New 52 or Rebirth. Young Justice, we came out like before the New 52. And some of the ideas that we were implementing in our series, New 52 did some of the same things, on some level. And I guess Rebirth, some of the designs are an evolution on that. But we don't look at one specific storyline or one specific continuity from the DC stuff in order to come up with our template or our look for the characters. We kind of look at the various interpretations and then we see what works and what doesn't work for the context of our story.
So if you were to say have Superman, would he still have his underpants on the outside?
If I were to do Superman, you guys will have to wait and see.
I tried.
Every design that I guess didn't necessarily like work for what you were doing, or did kind of like just for the most part everything just kind of naturally
yeah, there's stuff that we go through all the time that's just like it's cool, but it doesn't hit the story beats. It doesn't facilitate the requirements of the story. So even if I come up with the coolest design, like if it doesn't hit all the appropriate themes of what we're trying to do, then
there's a specific character, I should say, there's a specific character that you kind of wanted that design to work, and it's just like, I guess we can't do that.
I'm trying to think, man. For this season, yeah, but I can't tell you who.
So I'm asking all these questions for this season.
Sorry, man.
Anything from season 2?
Like I went through various takes on Green Beetle that I remember that were cool, but we didn't quite work. Deathstroke, I did some stuff for Deathstroke that wasn't quite right because of how we wanted him to stack up against Sportsmaster. Because if you have two characters that kind of occupy the same space or they have the same function, you need to create some kind of contrast or have them either contrast or complement each other in different ways. So that would be definitely Deathstroke. There's some cutting room floor stuff that is pretty cool but didn't work.
Is there any sort of are there any differences in sort of how you're approaching producing the show, given the gap in production and the fact you're doing it as a streaming service versus Cartoon Network?
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff that I think we can get away with that in the streaming sort of world that we couldn't get away with on network. There's some stuff like that. It feels like the cuffs are off a little bit. And then there's just practical production concerns. We're trying to make it a show, even though it's a big show in scope and scale. We really want to make it something that's producible, so we have to find ways of staging it that don't cripple the animators and the storyboard artists. So you're always trying to refine your approach to your craft so that you can get better results. Some stuff, you have to avoid in favor of like trying to keep the production quality up. So, but it's always a challenge.
Is this complete redesign from the ground up, or there were things from before you were canceled that you were like, I want to still try to keep it this way?
So like when we finished, that was I finished drawing in 2012. In the spring of 2012, I was done, and I went and I started working on DC movies. So I didn't think about, if I went back to YJ, this is what I would do differently at that time. But by the time we got back around to working on it, I have a lot of years under my belt since then, and I've added some things to my sort of repertoire, stylistic flourishes, mechanical adjustments that I feel like will make it build a better mousetrap, so to speak. You know what I mean? Not necessarily changing the fundamental DNA of the design theory, but adding things and adjusting mechanical things so that it can actually work better for the animators. Yeah.
It's pretty easy for you to kind of like do the runaway designs, considering they were just very simple.
Yes and no. I mean, coming up with cool, compelling sort of civilian outfits, like believable streetwear that animates well, that also sells character, is actually harder than doing these big, bold, colorful superhero uniforms. So in a lot of ways, drawing mundane things is the hardest thing to make interesting. Everybody can draw a giant robot and a ninja, and they're inherently cool. Batman is inherently cool. Try drawing a bus driver and making him interesting. Nobody practices that stuff. So, natural extension of that is the characters in their civvies outfits. I want them to be just as believable. I want them to reflect their character, but there are certain silhouettes that work better for animation. Certain things where you avoid because the character gets lost in it. You know what I mean? So it's always a challenge to come up with that perfect balance of like, that's something that a 25-year-old, woman who has this particular sort of background would wear. You know what I mean? And their backgrounds are also diverse. That you have to really try to get in that character's skin.
I mean, is that kind of like the same thing with Superboy? Because it seems like his is very just cut and dry.
It is, and that's true because he's like, he protests too much. You know what I mean? He's like, I'm not into this, just but he keeps wearing the S. Come on, sir, you like it, Superboy. No, he's practical. He's trying to just be like, because his thing is like, he didn't want to have to be Superman. They're in some ways it's that thing of not wanting to be your dad or whatever it is. So he's always gonna just go like, I'm not into the capes thing. Like, that's you guys.
Is there anything specific within the team? You showed some slides at the panel.
Yeah.
We saw the redesign for Robin and Bart, and it's obviously homages to other characters, I should say. Can you go into that? Like, Bart obviously has more yellow now.
Because he's basically paying homage to Wally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
like just the process of like just the redesign, like, oh yeah, we definitely need more yellow in here.
I mean, with every character you want them to, you don't ever want to depart so far away from the tradition that they're not recognizable. Mm-hmm. You really want to be faithful to the guys and girls that created these characters, and because we wouldn't be able to carry on doing this stuff if not for these brilliant creators that came before us. So I always liken it to you're tending somebody else's garden. Like I'm just the groundskeeper, and then there's going to be other people after us. So we want to leave it like nice, because we got it and it was nice, and we want to add, maybe add your little flourish, and maybe that'll become part of the character's like legacy, and maybe not, but hopefully, you're just carrying the torch for a while. So yeah, I'm always trying to make sure that it's like that feels like that character, like fundamentally, but it's just slightly remixed. Yeah.
So Black Beetle was it always kind of like in the play to have Black Beetle like this big bodybuilder like hulking character?
Yeah, well, Kevin Graveau has that incredible voice, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I did the design. It's been a long time. I don't know if I did the design before Kevin was cast or if we knew it was going to be Kevin. Anyway, yeah, we knew because we wanted him to be so intimidating. You know what I mean? And we had done a future Blue Beetle where he was, you know, there was like that episode where you see what Jaime will become. I don't know if you guys remember that, but he's like, and he's even pushed beyond Black Beetle. So we always kind of knew we want this dude to just be like, oh my God, like that's the worst, your worst nightmare Beetle. And yeah, and Kevin was amazing. So.
Having worked on the other DC animations, did you make a conscious effort to make sure that the designs of Young Justice were different than, say, what we would see in Teen Titans?
Did I make a conscious effort to make sure it was different than
than the direct to, you know?
The movies did.
Yeah.
Well, it's tough because I'm designing both.
Yeah.
So
That's what I mean.
Yeah. So. YJ was established before I started doing the continuity movies. I'm doing the continuity movies. They have their own narrative. They don't really influence Young Justice. They're in their own, you know, different universe. So they're very separate. Stylistically, the drawing style is the same, but they're totally different stories. I mean, Beast Boy is always going to be this sort of fun, buoyant, like comical character, you know, in every iteration. So that's fundamental to the character. So that stuff is consistent because that's who those characters are in any. If you want to look at it as like a multiverse, like the way, you know, we have all these various multiverse in DC. It's a recurring theme. So those characters' basic core of who they are is always going to be the same, but the context of the story drives the approach to design. Now, stylistically, there's a lot of crossover. So, yeah, but that's just the way I draw. It's like my speaking voice, you know. So, but yeah, it's they don't really influence each other beyond that.
Which was your favorite design in season 3 to draw?
Of the ones that we've shown so far?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, because I can't tell you about can't tell you about the other stuff. I had a lot of fun designing Blue Beetle and not Blue Beetle, Beast Boy, and he'll.
On the other hand, I'm sure he feels
we're gonna have some fun with him this season, and Tim Drake. I always love drawing the Batman characters. So. Okay, right on. Thanks, guys. Thank you.